Well, hello, Dillon. I'm so glad that you're here. We have Dillon White up here right now. Dillon is a former competitor from the Northwestern University speech team. He was there when I first got started at Northwestern. He was there for 2 years, and then went to Illinois State University for graduate school. Learned a lot, I'm sure, along the way. Dillon, my first and I think the pressing question that nobody knows that they should be asking you is this. Is it true that you have a national championship in after dinner speaking because you won it in a game of beer pong with Mike Norris?
Oh man, I actually kind of forgot about that one. Yes, I think I did win that one. But I probably shouldn't say anything more about that day or what I remember or don't remember. But yes, I do remember winning that.
Yeah, just remember this will be on YouTube for forever.
Yeah, so no, I know. As soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, great, awesome.
Yeah. All right, my next question for you, which is really fun, is you coach a high school team, or you have been coaching a high school team recently with your incredible wife, who, for those of you who don't know, Dillon won a national championship in info at NFA, and then the following year, his wife took second in info at NFA, and then, of course, their students are incredible at info, so that's been really fun to see. But Dillon, what happens when you get in a disagreement when you're coaching and each of you thinks that an event should go a different way? How's that go?
Well, I mean, first, just to briefly touch on the info thing, I kind of really love that she took second, because that way I can always make the really stupid joke that she married up, right? I think that in general, whenever there's a disagreement, it's just a good life or speech rationale to let her way of thinking predominate, mainly because she's awesome at all the events. She actually really kind of helps me to figure out or understand things that I wouldn't have necessarily thought I've ever seen before. So I don't think we could ever coach this team individually. I think it's really a joint effort that's benefited both of us and hopefully our students too.
Yeah. So the question that was on the community poll, the one that I wanted to get to was, what team would you want to be on if you could be on any team other than your current team? Now, before I announce the winner for that, I want to know yours, and you can't pick Northwestern or Illinois State.
Okay. Am I allowed to choose my high school team?
No.
Okay.
Also, you can't choose Mankato. I know beforehand you said I'll probably choose Mankato. I want to take that off the list. What do you got?
Well, okay. Well, I teach at Mankato, so I feel like that would be the easiest one to answer. In terms of like the culture, I mean, again, it's always kind of a weird thing because like you think you kind of know how other teams operate, but you're not really sure. But I think the one that would probably align with how we kind of view culture, I guess, at least from the outside, I think that UT runs an awesome program in terms of being like very team oriented and very focused on the collective, and that's kind of what we do as a team too. But I probably venture to say that most teams do the same thing.
All right. So, what was your favorite ADS joke ever? It can be either a joke you did that you really loved, or it could be a joke someone else did, but you'll probably say one that you did.
Okay. My favorite jokes were always the one that nobody else thought was funny. Those were my favorites. But I guess like if we're doing the imagination speech junior year, I'd say it's probably like the running joke I had where Bobo died. And then I was like constantly like stepping over Bobo. If it was the California speech, the one that I always like was the what are we going to do about our peaches? That was always my favorite. Yeah, I had an ADS either freshman or sophomore year. I can't remember which one. That like in retrospect, I think it was freshman year. I think it was funny, but it's the thing I find really odd about ADS is it's such a mind game. And like no one my freshman year had told me that I could be funny. And so if you don't think that you're funny, like you will not be funny. And so I remember by the time like junior year came around and I was working with you and Sean Quadlin and stuff. And I remember I showed it to Sean, HFO or Norton, I don't remember which one. And I finished and like, it was pretty bonkers. It was like 19 minutes. It was like the night before the tournament. And I remember he looked at me and he was like, this is yours. So you gotta own it. And that was the first time that anyone was like, oh yeah, own it, right? Like own your jokes, even if other people don't find them funny, if you think they're funny.
Yeah, I remember that first time you showed me that imagination ADS and you said, I've been working on this thing. I want to show you this thing. And you showed me a like 15 and a half, 16-minute speech. And I remember just at the end, I didn't say anything. I just sat there in silence for quite a little bit of time. And then I was like, I don't know what just happened, but
Neither did I.
think people are really gonna like it, and they did, and that was great to see.
Is the unicorn still around? Is that thing still in existence?
It is still in existence.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. I haven't been to the office in like almost a year, so I don't know, but I would assume it's still there.
I remember it needed some repairs.
Yeah, it was in a special area where we kept our legendary stuff,
Yeah.
so people could talk about it.
It was super
All right. So to change topics into a different genre, you did a persuasive speech on undiagnosed medical diseases and the Undiagnosed Disease Registry that did very well at AFA. And that was one of them that was listed of the people's top speeches they'd ever seen in the community poll. You were brought up for that presentation. So what are your thoughts on that? What was that like for you in developing that speech from kind of start to finish?
That was a weird one. I feel like I kind of figured out how to do the activity without doing the activity with that speech. I mean, I remember I wrote that speech after getting all the interviews and stuff. I wrote that speech in Starbucks in Evanston, and I remember the very first draft I sent you was pretty much the draft that we ended up going with. I know we changed a few lines and stuff, but like that was my first experience with any sort of speech where I honestly like figured out that you could do the activity without trying to win. And I think, I mean, obviously like other stuff comes from that, but it's still the example I use to our students now of like, you start doing well when you stop caring about doing well. And I think, you know, maybe especially now for all the seniors in high school and college, I think that's a really important lesson that like it took me way too long to figure out, but it's one that I'm still constantly like telling our seniors, juniors, sophomores too. And so I think it was a very eye-opening experience for me because like that was the moment where I was like, oh, this is what the activity could and should be.
Yeah, you mean basically let's just create speeches that are good speeches.
Yeah,
how it does is how it does.
Yeah,
yeah, that's a great philosophy I think to have for a lot of people to adapt. All right, so can you guess what the most picked team is that people wanted to be on if they had to be on a different team?
I'm gonna go UT or Bradley or ISU. But like I don't know which one.
It is Bradley University. So congrats, Bradley. You're the team that the most people wanted to be on. Now there were a lot of teams that got multiple votes. A whole bunch of teams got votes, but I wanted to call it Bradley. Good job. You're doing things well. People love you. Or they just want to be on your team. I don't know. So Dillon, it's been really good having you here. If you could just give a message to all the people that are doing speech, especially in light of everything that's happened with so many national tournament cancellations and everything, what is your message to the people or the students, coaches, all of them?
So I'm gonna give the same message actually that we gave to our high schoolers. So everything for our district was canceled the night before our qualifiers for nationals. And then Night Talk canceled that night, and then section state, everything was delayed. So our students didn't really get to do anything. And so I kind of gave them the message that honestly Stan Pollitt was, I think, the first person who really said this. And so I'm going to give credit to Stan on this. But 95% of the people who do this activity will never see their name on a poster at nationals. And yet you cannot argue to me that only 5% of people that do this activity find incredible life-changing value out of it. And I think that especially now, as like all these tournaments are being canceled and we're adapting to all these new formats, I think that that's such an important thing to remember. I mean, even remember when I was competing and like I thought, you know, like winning and doing well and all these things would matter. And I mean, I still remember when we moved out here from Illinois to Minnesota, all my like trophies and stuff, we were getting them into the moving van, and I was, you know, like put them outside the apartment or whatever, and my parents were there to help, and by help I mean like watch. And my mom looked at all the trophies and she was like, "We're just gonna throw these away, right?" And I was like so offended at the time because, you know, we worked so hard for those things. And it was only, you know, a couple years later when I realized that all those trophies are sitting somewhere in a storage closet that I was like, that's not what you remember, right? You remember the moments, you remember the memories. I met my wife through this activity. I have kids because of this activity. And so I think that there's so many other things that are valuable to it. And it takes a really long time to figure out what kind of attachment you ascribe to the activity that's not based on the number. the thing we always tell our kids is that if you are basing how much this activity means to you on a number you receive in a round, we're doing it wrong. And so I think that that's something that, especially now, is really important to remember.
All right. Thank you so much, Dillon. It's been fantastic to have you here. Maybe you'll drop in tomorrow. Maybe you'll be surprising some of our guests. We will see. But thanks, Dillon. And it's been good having you. Have a good day.
Thanks for having me. See you guys.